You read the title. Today I'm going to show you how, with the power of mods, you can take your Terraria from looking like this to looking a little more something like this. Now we're talking, man. Oh yeah. Let's begin with the mods, starting with Naka's inventory tweaks. This mod takes the boring ass vanilla inventory and gives it some spice and some cool effects when you hover over items, alongside some quality of life features too, allowing you to hold control and drag to delete items. Next up, we have Cozy Houses, a mod that only came out a few days ago, but man if this thing isn't beautiful to use. Essentially, this mod will zoom into your character and dim the outside world whenever you walk into a house, kind of emulating what some other games do, and yeah, they weren't lying when they said this was cozy. I found that the mod didn't zoom in and dim the lights enough for my taste, so I turned those up slightly in the config, but that's entirely up to preference. I think the default settings work great too. Moving on to the next two mods, we have the Liquid Slopes patch, which just fixes like a small bug with water, it's nothing important. And then probably my favorite mod of all time, Font Loader. This thing is so amazing. You can change the goofy default Terraria font into any font your heart desires. And all you have to do is throw your TTF file into a folder and then select that folder within the mod. The font I use personally is called Lexend, which I'll leave a link to the download in the description. Next up, we have Loot Beams, a smaller mod which just adds a cool beam of light above dropped items. Another mod on the smaller side here, Atmospheric Torches. It's very subtle, but it makes torches flicker ever so slightly, which I think is pretty cool for immersion. Okay, now we have the absolute staple of Terraria visual mods. None other than Lights and Shadows. Do I really need to introduce this mod? It adds its own lighting effects alongside some bloom to make Terraria look shigging incredible. Now for the configs, I just left everything pretty much the same as the mod is that good. For the final visual mod I use here, we have Realistic Sky. While this mod gives more of a subtle change to daytime, making the sun look more realistic, nighttime is when it really comes alive, illuminating the night sky with a myriad of stars, which is pretty awesome itself, but it gets even better. Take to the skies and is that an entire galaxy over there? Go even higher and you'll just straight up leave the atmosphere. It's such a cool effect. Now for the config, there really isn't much I'd bother with here. I do have it disabled during boss fights when I'm no-hitting, but it really doesn't make too much of a difference in normal gameplay. And you could probably experiment with the realistic clouds option too. Okay, now for the final mods, which I'm gonna lump all three of them together here: Nitrate, High FPS support, and Not Quite Nitrate. These three are essentially just optimization mods, and Nitrate is no exception. The experimental tile renderer, I'd recommend keeping that off, as it can mess up with the game's rendering and really bugs out if you zoom in. But it could be worth experimenting with if you have severe issues with performance. Now the same for High FPS support, I'd recommend just using these settings. Me personally, I keep the game locked to 60 FPS as it's the most stable, but if you want to go higher, just take the FPS limit and crank that baby up. Finally, for Not Quite Nitrate, you could just turn it on and leave it as is. Okay, so that's all the mods out of the way. Now let's get into the texture packs, which I only have a few of. First off, and by far my favorite, is Blurred Backgrounds, which does what it says on the tin. It takes every single vanilla background and applies a blur effect to it, making everything else on the screen just really pop out, which I like a lot. This effect might not be for everyone, but me personally, I think it's the best thing since rice on toast. Next up, you don't necessarily need this, but I think Terra HUD looks amazing. It gives a really nice squared off feel to the UI, which combined with the font loader and Naka's inventory tweaks just makes the game look clean as f. Now, last but certainly not least, we have Winry Rockbell from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood replaces a mechanic. You need this mod. So, with all those mods and resource packs finally out of the way, unless you want to get my ones, link in the description, we can move on to the ultimate comparison.